Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everyone.
Morning. Morning.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
Second.
Now, I think we're going to have to amend one part of the agenda, which was the discussion from the election committee, Tom Piatti. Not going to be able.
Hold on. There's a motion to amend the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion.
Yeah, need to remove the discussion for the election committee with Tom Piatti. He is unable to attend today due to him being sick and COVID protocols. Would you like to present next month, his report?
Right.
So if we extend that by a month, I just want to point out a couple of things. We received the election committee report, which does not answer the fundamental question that we had a special meeting on and where there was a request for an audit. And that specific thing, to go back to those, go back to that discussion, was, if you recall, a member of the association pointed out that the number of votes that were counted and tabulated exceeded the maximum amount possible based on what they felt was the amount of I'm gonna call it ballots or lot participation. So the question was specifically to the committee to determine if the number of votes cast exceeded the maximum number of votes expected based on the number of lots that participated in the election. Their response to that was, due to the envelopes being separated from the ballots, it is impossible, even by an outside auditor, to determine how the mail-in multiple lot owners voted. We could care less about how they voted. The election is settled. The question is, were more votes cast than the number of lots that participated would have permitted.
So Frank, if I may, before we end up in a very detailed discussion on this, I think your point is taken with regard to the fact that there's still some outstanding information. So
Yes.
I think the idea here is, do we want to keep this on the agenda or not? My suggestion would be we remove from the agenda, but then we direct the liaison to that committee to have your questions answered specifically and be prepared to discuss it in January.
Yes,
Acceptable?
with the understanding, if they cannot answer that, the agreement of the whole board at that point in time was to go to audit.
All right. Everybody okay with that approach? We will direct the liaison to take Frank's information, get it to that committee with the idea of delivering what you just mentioned. All right, any further discussion on that? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of removing the item from new business under the election committee discussion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, then I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor of the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Next item of business, approval of minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the November 19th regular meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Discussion. Go ahead.
Yeah, there are quite a few edits that are needed, and rather than getting into discussion today about all those edits, we just remove this from the agenda, take the discussion offline and approve them next month.
Would you accept tabling the motion until next month?
Yes.
Other discussion?
I'm okay with that.
All right. So there's a motion to table the motion until next month. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of tabling the approval of the minutes from the November 19th meeting until our next board meeting in January, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we will move that. And Stuart, please make sure that that item is on the agenda for next month. I'll entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes from December 19th special meeting.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second?
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of approval of the special meeting minutes from our special meeting on December 9th, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Record that accordingly. Next item of business, president's remarks. None other than just best wishes for a safe and happy holiday season to everyone. Hopefully everybody gets to see friends, family, and all the folks that are involved in making their lives wonderful. And again, let's get through the holiday season safely and move forward to a very good new year. Next item on the agenda, the OPFD work group presentation. John.
Hey, thank you, Doug. I just have the first slide, and then we have Ted Maroney here today. First slide that we have up there is, as you know, I was tasked by the board several months ago to put together some type of recommendation, some type of fundraising, which we recommended. So the first thing I did was put together a team, my go-to guys, or I guess in the future, I'll have to say go-to people. But these are gentlemen that have worked with me before. They're very professional and constructive. And I think today when you see what Ted presents for the team, you're going to see a lot of good work. Okay. And then obviously Marvin's there and Eddie. The next phase after this potentially could be construction. Not at that phase right now. Turn the page. And then we have Steve and Dave here. And I think Dave's here to answer any questions. Okay, so the initiative we recommended a fundraising program to bridge the gap to fund a new building. Again, all this Ted will talk about in detail today. Received endorsement from the board on July 27th to move forward. Formed a work group with individuals who I believe are professional and constructive, including OPVFD. The objectives were hiring an individual or firm with knowledge of this area with a proven track record in fundraising. The team recognized early on that we needed to bring on board an individual who specialized in grant writing with a strong background. I believe we've achieved that also. The scope of today's presentation, please, is the fundraising, and Ted will go through that now. So with that said, Ted Maroney will give you a detailed update from the team and where we are with the progress. Ted?
Morning.
Good morning.
Ted.
So the work group, John first approached us in late July to go ahead and get it set up. We had three primary responsibilities or tasking. First, develop and execute a plan to meet the OPA board direction to work in concert with the fire department to organize fundraising in accord with the current MOU. The second job was concurrently to review the plan that OPVFD had prepared, examine location options, and other recent Eastern Shore Fire Department construction and explore future department needs both in size and the fundamental organizational involvement to develop a plan in concert with the fire department that can be used to obtain competitive pricing from contractors. And last, after completion of items 1 and 2, prepare a framework for OPA and OPVFD to develop a simplified and forward-looking MOU presentation to their two boards. So all we're talking about today is task 1, which is not the construction part. So that's develop and execute a plan to meet OPA board direction and assist the fire department with fundraising in accord with the current MOU. So there's some realities everybody has to understand right off the bat. It's great to have it on a piece of paper that says, hey, go create this fundraising thing, but we needed to look at realities. The first is that OPVFD has no real capital fundraising experience or depth of knowledge. Second, OPVFD recent efforts are basically selling raffle tickets, getting about $40,000 to $70,000 to support apparatus replacement. Third, OPA has no in-house expertise in fundraising. However, we have a community of highly dedicated volunteers to tap into, some of whom might have that expertise, or at the very least, we can count on to maximize our effort of volunteers in execution of a program going forward. Next. So when we got started on this thing, I'm going to give you background. We've probably had in excess of 30 meetings since August, and they haven't been with the whole group. They've been, as John said, segments depending on what we were doing. Some with the fire department, some with just ourselves, some with consultants. We intended initially to issue an RFP to find a capital campaign consultant or contractor. Based on the points previously made related to experience and expertise, team members question our readiness to conduct a capital campaign and suggested a feasibility study as a prerequisite. After discussion, we all agreed. We developed a feasibility study RFP and solicited additional expertise to review, provide input, and validate that RFP. Reached out to several fundraising experts and met with the head of fundraising for the Wilmington Diocese of the Catholic Church. She provided high-level advice as to structure and opportunities while validating our RFP. Next. Through a lot of and an individual being tuned into many Eastern Shore contacts, we were able to arrange several meetings between our team and several experienced fundraising individuals on the Eastern Shore. Through those meetings, those individuals were able to validate our approach in RFP, encourage our continued path to obtain additional grants, provided us with the names of many key stakeholders within and around Ocean Pines, expressed a willingness to assist us in review and interviews with RFP respondents, and potentially could supply ongoing assistance depending on the feasibility results. Next slide. We ended up sending out 9 RFPs, and we met with nearly all of those potential bidders prior to accepting proposals. We received a total of 6 proposals, varied greatly in scope and price, and in some cases were simply sales pitches for future or other services. Pricing varied from $28,000 to $60,000 plus out-of-pocket expenses. Based on the research we had done preliminarily, we expected this to be $20,000 plus out-of-pocket expenses. Our in-depth review indicated an alternate path to success, and we requested a formal proposal from a respected fundraiser who has raised millions of dollars for the Salisbury Zoo and Delmarva Discovery Museum. Next. Our feeling throughout this has been that we needed a hybrid campaign with 3 distinct levels of solicitation. After reviewing the proposal, this is the correct approach. So let me explore our 3-prong approach. First, key donors. And by key donors, this is what everybody thinks of as a traditional capital campaign that you'd have at a college or any other institution like that. One of our goals was to limit risk to OPVFD and OPA. The proposal we adopted does just that by setting a percentage of the amount raised as a basis for payment. Normally, firms charge a fixed fee, which equates to around 10% of the amount you expect to raise, but with no guarantee of success. We will pay 8% of the amount actually collected and in the bank. This limits our risk to the cost of published materials and other incidental costs. Our consultant, in concert with OP and OPVFD individuals, will be involved in all of the major donor solicitation. Next. So I'll run through this real quick. This is going to change a little as since we did the slides. We've kind of combined and added some things, but just so that you have an understanding of what's going to happen here. First month, develop a case for support with a brochure, develop a dedication and naming opportunity list, develop and maintain the donor base, wealth analytics, identify keystone gifts and honorary chairs, identify 50 potential major donors that would be in excess of 10 grand each, identify 5 potential business owners as major donors, interview board members, key OPVFD members and staff, and they will need assistance with introductions as we go forward. Next. Second month and third month, identify influential leaders who are willing to donate time to the campaign, identify possible hosts for meetings at their home or at the fire department, continue to cultivate the list of donors, and after meetings and interviews, review relevant fire department fire accident call records. I'll preempt a question. No ambulance records will be shared at all. That falls under HIPAA, so none of that, but a fire call or a car accident call is available so that we're able to take a look and see what's happened. Identify other local capital campaigns, especially fire departments, review Ocean Pines demographics in detail. Month 4 to month 11, mail letter and brochure to property owners, continue research and conduct the ask, review status every 60 days, just based on results. Next. 12th month hopefully celebrates a successful completion of the capital campaign. So that's plan one. That's the capital part. That's the major donor part. That's the business part. That's the big part. Second part, which is grants. OPVFD has secured and received in hand, they have $1.35 million in a grant from the state. We owe State Senator Mary Beth Carrozza and State Delegate Wayne Hartman our gratitude for making this happen. OPVFD has also been authorized $350,000 in bonds for the state of Maryland. That is a long process of about 20 or 30 steps. They are in progress of doing that. We've applied and we're continuing on. We interviewed a respected Eastern Shore grant writer with 46 years of experience whose name came to us from multiple fundraising sources. A lot of the people we talked to on the Eastern Shore said, hey, if you're looking at grants, talk to this lady. Based on the results of that interview process, next slide, determined she has vast experience in grant writing for both fire departments as well as grant expertise in multiple other areas. We entered into an agreement to allow the research to be conducted and for a report to be provided to the work group of available grants, the chances of us getting that grant, and the amount of money and effort that it would take to apply to it. So it's not just, hey, there's a grant out here. What are the chances of us getting it? And what's the effort and cost to go after it? So we'll do a little bit of what the return on investment is as we go through this. That report and the next phase of decision-making should be completed no later than the end of this month. The third prong is the community fundraising. And from our status as a work group, this is the part that is a little nebulous because this requires community volunteers to help with the organization and execution of a community-based fundraising effort. We'll be setting up a special form to volunteer to help. This is in its infancy, and we're looking for organizers and leaders as well as volunteers. And there are a ton of different activities available, as you all know. It can be competitive activities, fundraising runs, trivia nights, traditional activities like car walk, sale, social recreation, silent auctions, auction of free meals at local restaurants, and combinations of the above, including fire department displays. And the one thing we definitely want, do nothing else on this part, is the Ocean Pines dunk tank. And
Can I nominate Doug Parks?
I can even, Matt Stewart, we've got a whole list of possible dunk tank volunteers, Doug Parks, Rick Farr, Monica Paskey, Stuart Lackwinek, other well-loved members of the community. Next up.
As long as we know what they're not going to be throwing.
Yeah.
Oh, tomatoes.
So status summary, and I know I've gone through a lot, but you all have this. The key donor program's getting kicked off in January. With grants, we're getting the report this month. We'll make a decision back and say, hey, here's where we're going. The community fundraising, that's the part that's a little harder where we need volunteers. We'll dig into that a little bit more, but hopefully during the January, February time, get that pulled together. OPA and OPVFD will continue to jointly partner through the execution of this fundraising program.
Yeah, I noticed in the slide in the beginning, talked about location. Are we looking to move the firehouse to a different spot?
So first of all, thanks, Ted. So Stuart, it's a very good question. All options are reviewed with the team. That isn't necessarily, I know something was put in one of the papers, but obviously looking at all options, when it comes time for the building, we will present that.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
Now, it also says that, and I don't know who to address this to, Dave or you, Ted. I remember, was it last meeting or the meeting before, you told us that we were okay with the timeline to start using that grant money because it's got an expiration date. Are we okay with this timeline with the grant?
Yes, we're well within what, Dave, do you want to just quickly say?
Yeah, let me
Number.
just explain. You've got 7 years. You've got 7 years from the date of award. That applies to both the bonds, the two bonds that we have, as well as what is called the paygo grant, which is the 1.35 million.
Okay, so between the bonds and the grant, we're talking about 1.7 million, right?
It's actually.
Yeah, 1.7.
Okay.
Yeah, yes,
350 plus 1.3.
Yeah, okay,
but we have 7 years to execute.
okay, thank you.
I have a question. With regard to the grant writer, do you see that as a one-time event, or do you see that individual continuing to work with the association, as this project's moving forward to get any opportunities?
Oh, yeah, and then if you guys want Ted to answer the questions, that's fine, but we're also looking at it if it's the, or anything else, it's not a one-time.
Okay, good.
Yeah, just in general, after we got done talking about fire department grants and all of the stuff that's available out there and apparatus specific, it morphed directly into what, have you done stuff with police departments? Yes. Can you do things with road projects? Potentially. So this is, I think, the beginning of a longer term relationship. The one thing I will, just so everybody understands, we're not a municipality. And that does have an impact on what grants we are eligible for across state and federal. Okay, so that's being looked at, but that's the one thing that's, a little bit of an inhibitor, but she's aware of that.
And how will this impact the existing fundraising? We already have fundraising going for apparatus. Is this going to be in competition, or how are you going to address that?
I can address it. What we have, in accordance with the MOU, Ocean Funds Association and Fire Department provide each 50% on the apparatus replacement. And our fundraising portion, where we're selling raffle tickets, et cetera, that is for the apparatus specifically. Much of that comes from the tourists that come here or the part-timers that come here, whether it's at the yacht club, which provides substantial amount of ticket sales, or whether it's the farmer's market, et cetera, et cetera. We don't think that that's going to be a competition at all. The capital campaign is completely different. We've made that point, not only with the committee, but on our website and everything.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
A couple of questions. Earlier in the presentation, you identified the fundraiser who had experience with the Salisbury Zoo and the Discovery Museum. And then you listed some specifics as to, I assume, to be a contract that you would agree to 8% of actually collected fund. Now, has the entered into that contract?
Not as of yet. We're here today to kind of explain our path of operation and everything else.
Okay.
We haven't entered into the contract yet. We have prepared a legal document. It has been looked at by counsel. We have shared that document with the individual, and other than possibly changing some of first month and second month and combining things, there are no major differences between the parties on it.
Okay. Second question, as to the different prongs as to fundraising, particularly the first two, leave the dunk tank aside. Does the group have an estimate as to how much they believe they can raise or should raise in order to meet the goal, whatever the goal ultimately is?
Not really. One of the reasons that if you take a look at, there's been no solicitation or donor preparation that you would have like you would in a normal capital campaign. Okay, this is like walking in fresh. So that's one of the reasons that we were really more sold on an Eastern Shore person who was actually only going to get paid for what they brought in. So if they bring $1 million in, they get 8% of it. If they bring 10 million in, they get 8% of it. But from a risk standpoint, because we don't have the history, we don't have the analytics that you would have if you were at a college, for instance, where you've got owner list and you've done all the cultivation and stuff. We don't know what they can raise through this. The grants, we'll have a much better answer in January when we've gotten this report back. And again, it depends. What are we eligible for and what is the pain threshold or cost potentially to go and do this? So no, we don't know what we can get. We've had people say, yeah, we can raise $5 million. We've had others that say, if you take a look at some of the fire departments on the Eastern Shore, how long has it taken Berlin to raise $1 million? 7 or 8 years. If you go up to one of the other departments we looked at, they've been doing it for what, 3 years, John, and raised $600,000 or $800,000. So that's why we took the approach of limited risk for the fire department and for Ocean Pines. It's how you do. But we feel, this individual feels very good about doing it and in being able to hit whatever we come up with as a goal.
Well, at least from my point of view, I think it would be helpful for us to get an idea earlier rather than later as to what the estimates are, understanding that they're estimates, but what the estimates are as to meet the different prongs. Last question, just to follow up on Stuart's and maybe John or I'm not sure who can answer it.
Construction, which I said was out of scope, and anything on construction, I'll answer. Anything else?
My question, there's been some discussion, at least publicly, about the North Firehouse.
Right.
Am I correct in assuming that everything is on the table, including whatever might happen with the North Firehouse?
So actually, I'm going to let Dave talk about that. We've prepped for this. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the North Firehouse. The North Firehouse is a fully operational fire station. I mean, maybe a year ago, there was an article about it being a storage shed. It is far from being a storage shed.
Okay.
It's a very active station. Every morning for about 2 hours, the career crew out of South Station comes and tests all the equipment in that firehouse. And then when there is an alarm, some people, I think, have an idea that a fire station should have cars around it and people all the time. If you come from an environment like I do, which is a volunteer fire department, rural up in Connecticut, there's never a car around there until the alarm goes off. And then everybody's there. And that applies to, having drills, et cetera, et cetera. But I think what's critically important to understand is ISO, international standards. In this, we are what is called ISO 4X4. And it goes from 1 all the way to 9. So we're kind of in the middle as far as volunteer stations go. There are a lot of factors that go into that. One of the key factors that goes into it happens to be the location of the fire station, not just the fire hydrant, but the location of the fire station. At this point in time, with 2 fire stations, we have 79 road miles in Ocean Pines. The standard is to be within 1.5 miles of a fire station. At this point in time, we have over 50 road miles that are within 1.5 miles of either of those 2 stations. If that fire station did not exist, there would be only let me put it the other way. We have about 29 road miles that are not covered within that 1.5 miles standard. If that fire station did not exist, we'd have over 50 road miles that are not covered by that. What is the implication of that? The implication of that is that there are points in the equations that develop the ISO standard, which relates directly to the insurance on your house. So if that didn't exist and you had those additional road miles, we would have points deducted from what we already have. At that point in time, and now I'm giving you a hypothetical, okay? I don't know for sure. We'll find out in 2023 when they do the next standard survey. But what would happen, and what I'm told by ISO would happen, is we would drop to 5X5 rather than 4X4. That would have an adverse effect on the insurance of everybody in the community, not just those on the north side or whatever. Does that clarify what?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm not suggesting there's an answer. I'm just wondering, in terms of what's on the table, following up on Stuart's question, I just want to make sure everything that question was there as well.
If your question was, and maybe we misunderstood, if your question was, is the team looking at the North Station as the place to put the all-inclusive station house or no?
No, I'm not limiting the question. I'm simply.
But
Yeah,
Let me take it.
answer is yes. Everything is under consideration in terms of sizing the replacement station,
Yeah.
going through the ISO this summer. So we're doing a trust but verify. Does this really affect?
Yeah.
What's the roll down on it? What's the future? One of the things, if you looked at that second one, it talked about the natural evolvement of how the station is and how. So all of that is part of what we're looking at in both the size of the station and going forward.
And Ted, are you saying, just maybe you're saying if we keep that station, the station we're looking at could be smaller or something like that?
Potentially, or,
Yeah, tell them.
yeah, potentially depending on the involvement. But the simple answer to your question is yes, we're looking at the whole.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions for Ted, or John? Ted, thank you very much, and please, let the rest of the team know that we really appreciate the work that they're doing and looking forward to keeping this project moving.
Will do.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, GM report, John.
Hey, thank you, Doug. Okay, let's start off with, obviously, it's the holiday season, a couple of the trees. On the left is the lobby. Next time I do any type of pictures, hopefully it'll be renovated and refurbished. Turn the page. So the initiatives, we always start off with this. So between Linda and myself, we will be addressing all the items on here. Pretty much what we've been addressing over the last several months and the key items that we are working on. Turn the page. So it's December and it's budget time and it's proposed fiscal year 2023, 2024 budget process. So what does that mean? Where's the team? And where are we on everything that I've been updated? Well, we've received guidance from Budget and Finance. The team reviewed all that. I've talked about a DMA light study. We have discussed it with Budget and Finance. There will be a follow-up on 1228. That will be one of the highlighted items on there on where we go from there. But the team led by Linda has done a thorough review over the next 5 or 6 years on that, which we will present to the Budget and Finance. This will all tie in with the budget. It'll also tie in with any adjustments or anything to that schedule, that analysis that we've been doing since I've been here, which shows us, what percentage of fully funded we are, and it'll put it all into perspective. So that will be on 1228. And then obviously part of the budget process, and it's the last piece that I need to put together that proposed budget. All good stuff. Obviously, per our scrolls or governing documents, work with all department heads, bottom up. And obviously I do have my little back of the envelope, but Linda and Steve have been the leaders on this. We have been updating Budget and Finance. We have actually completed everything as we speak. Steve, our senior lead, is crunching numbers, but we will have, as committed to, the bonds to the board and Budget and Finance before the holidays. Everybody has signed off. That's a process that I've put in on everything on all monthlies, so everybody has had full input. Agenda and dates prepared, Budget and Finance review, January 4th, 5th, and 6th. Board review is scheduled for January 18th to 19th. Binders of the proposed budget will be sent out for the holidays, as promised. Turn the page. All right, so what are the factors besides just crunching numbers and everything else? Obviously, when you're looking at an assessment or anything else today, there are headwinds in anything that is financial. We have inflation, and we've had over the last several years, high inflation. Hopefully it's coming down. What we have that affects us the most is minimum wage inflation, right? Mark to market, which is what I've been calling for the last 4 years, where we look at our team and we look at and we benchmark against everybody around us to see whether or not we need to pay more to keep our talent. The pool has been tight, and no pun intended, but obviously the lifeguards, but we are looking at that. You will see in the budget that we've addressed that financially. Insurance premiums, medical premiums, well, this all comes, unfortunately, right after we finish the budget. So we have put in estimates there, but there are big numbers as far as the assessment. Tailwinds, well, improved performance in amenities and departments, and I can tell you, overall, we have an invigorated staff. Turn the page. So I've been talking to you about the primary pipes, the main pipes under all the major roads that we brought in a firm from Louisiana. We've had a lot of success with them, but also what I call secondary pipes. These are the pipes you'll see going across the roads from different ditches. We have been doing that all year, and we continue to do it at, I believe, record spend. But these are the next 4 that are on the agenda. They're all around $8,000 to $10,000, all needed. These pipes are 30, 40 years old. The total forecasted spend for the year, just to put it into perspective for drainage, we hear a lot about what we spend on golf or aquatics or something else. But this team, this board, the constructive board, has allowed me to spend over $550,000 through reserves for primary and secondary pipes. This is record breaking in 4 years in a row. We do also the normal drainage maintenance. You see we have a crew out there, and they're out there now. We're spending about $175,000. Right, so almost $1 million this year on drainage. Bulkheads, well, I will be coming forward in this part for the capital for the proposed 2023-24 for bulkheads, a little before the budget, but it actually helps me put the whole budget together. We've done this at least 1 year, if not two. I will be coming forward for these areas next on the list of the evaluations to the board today to ask permission to go forward. This will be part of the budget for 23-24. So I will be asking for this going forward. 2,300 square feet. If I get this approval today, I'll be able to lock in a price of $425, which shows no inflation for the last year. Hopefully I get that today. Turn the page. Panels, before I say this, how many people feel that today in this room that they can hear me and everybody else better?
Big difference.
Big difference,
John.
before I present this.
Yeah,
All right.
big difference.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of feedback. I've been down here. In fact, I came down to the Golf Advisory Committee the other day. After the panels were out and everybody there gave me thumbs up and A+. The grill staff also, and the same thing for the NFL tickets. So thank you. We do have some more work here. Installation of acoustic panels to adjust noise. All right, we talked about that, about 30 panels in each. The overall cost for both rooms are approximately around $8,000 each. And thank goodness they're working. Thank you. Turn the page. Okay, Yacht Club, we talk about deferred maintenance, and every year I see I have favorability in maintenance, and I do want to address this now because I do have some timing, obviously, with the weather and everything else. Northgate Bridge, which we are going to do a lot of work on and maintenance there. I had to push it to the spring because we just ran out of time in the weather. And I do have Public Works doing the renovation and the maintenance in the administration building. With that said, we have identified that is the ceiling in the upstairs of the yacht club. So you can just see some of the pictures that we took the other day, not the middle one, but the one on the right and left. So we have outsourced that. I have a company coming in for around $11,000 to take care of that. It's a major job. The piece in the middle, I'm hoping our team could take care of. If not, then we'll get somebody from the outside, but it's all rusty. And I'm big on entrances to our amenities. Turn the page. Kayak recreation pier. I know this is, we've gotten a lot of questions on it. This will be something part of the proposed 23-24 budget. But where are we right now? It will be on the internet as far as all the diagrams and everything. I don't know how good you can see it now, but this is Pintail Park, chosen as location by the Rec and Parks Advisory Committee. We've got approval at all different governmental agencies. We're just waiting for signature on one of them. We should have that soon. But again, they've all been approved. Once signed, the county will release construction permit. The estimated cost for and there's two, the way this thing is now structured, the two piers or docks is we will have one as a recreation pier and one as a kayak pier. So there's a second page. That one's the kayak pier down at the far end when you walk down near Pintail Park. Is actually a pier right now. The kayak piece, that mechanism that we will put on here is probably around $25,000, $30,000. So out of the whole $100,000 estimate that will be put in the proposed budget, around $70,000, $75,000 is replacement, and $25 to $30, $35 will be new capital. Turn the page. I did that. Turn the page. Okay, aquatics, just put some stuff there. I know committees.
I have a question about the kayak launches.
Just go back.
Is there parking right there?
There is parking, in fact, and I'm sorry I didn't point it out. So if you buy the bottom left corner there, there's parking there now. There will be a little work done in the top right corner of the far left there, but yes. Yep, and we'll be doing some work there also. Should have pointed that out. Okay, so on the aquatics, she's got the hydro rider. This, I believe, was the committees, through the liaison, and she's got the dates and all that, and a lot of good stuff going on down in aquatics. Golf. Talk about golf. So, the numbers are very good. They've been good. They've been record breaking. What we did have, and I just wanted to put an update, we do have a new golf director. Ken Attitude, I've said since day one. We did have the Santa's Open. I know there were some questions about it. I know a prior board member came to me and asked me about it. He felt it was important to have. And based upon that feedback, we did go ahead with that. And I appreciate that feedback from that prior board member. And so we have that in there. The good news on this is when I looked at the numbers compared to last year, we did 3 times the receipts that we did last year. So all around good for everything. And I know obviously that's for charities also. Okay, there's also cleanup as far as the maintenance, as far as that team and the superintendent, again, with a can-do attitude. And you can see it with our costs, but he's reopening the driving range, reorganizing other areas. So a lot of good work out there. What we got to do is look out the window. Turn the page. The window will take you through the roads of where we are right now.
Okay, this is the general maintenance on the roads, a yearly project. The ones marked with the check mark have been done: Barnacle Court, Beach Court, Bird Nest Drive, Garrett Drive, Liberty Bell Court, Moonshell Drive, Rabbit Run Lane, and Surfers Way. The remaining streets, Fossey Grange, Ivanhoe, Little John Court, Wintergreen Lane, and Willow Way are scheduled to be done in the next couple of weeks. Other approved cost was $363,122.
Okay, Ocean Pines Association project, and we have Keith here, our IT lead. So I'm going to ask Keith to just jump in. This is something I'm excited about as far as, moving forward in our IT area and the efficiencies we'll get.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Keith Allen, head of IT for Ocean Pines. We're here to talk a little bit about a software vendor, actually, that we've been vetting over the last several months. We're excited about this project, as excited as you can be about a software system. But what we're looking to do with this is address several areas within Ocean Pines. First and foremost, it gives us a document management system, which moves us closer to a paperless environment, which saves us paper, toner, ink, wear and tear on copiers and printers. But most of all, it saves us man hours. If someone has to look for a document, they don't have to go to a file cabinet, or worse, go down to Public Works Administration building. They can get in a couple clicks. So it's a great time saver, and it helps our abilities within the office. Second, it addresses, we store our documents now on hard drives in buildings here at Ocean Pines. This moves everything to a secure cloud based on AWS, Amazon. It's multiply backed up. It's very secure. It's a great relief to me. It would be to remove that from our offices. And thirdly, it helps us address ongoing projects for disaster recovery and business continuity, because then we would have access to it on the cloud, not have to worry about physical assets within buildings here at Ocean Pines. We've been vetting these vendors over several months. We've selected this particular vendor based on a combination of price, functionality, support. They have good US-based support, and as well as a glowing referral from a small town in upstate New York, which has been using them for about 15 months. And I got to talk to them quite a bit. So what we're hoping to improve this, and so we can move on this winter during our off season and get it up and running. And then they're also giving us, as everyone knows, when you're trying to sign a contract end of the year, they're giving us a big discount, about 17%, if we can sign it before the end of the year. So we're hoping the board will approve it now.
Okay, thank you, Keith. Oh, hold on. Steve's got a question.
Questions? Yes.
Yeah, I have a recollection that there was a discussion in the past about the fact that, for instance, the golf course uses a different computer system than Ocean Pines does. There's no sharing of, for instance, membership data and that sort of thing. Now, maybe there's a security reason why, I don't know. I'm just curious, in your discussions with this company, has there been any discussion about unifying the two systems? And maybe there's more than one, maybe it may not just be golf, could be others as well. Any talk about unifying them into a single group?
Golf course does use a separate system called Easy Links, which is separate from North Star, which is what most of us use. This particular system will work for golf course for sharing documentation and storage, but that particular system will remain. It will be separate, but it will remain. But it's used for a different purpose. It's used for tee times and things like that and scheduling, rather than document storage, which is what this will address.
So the ability to ensure that, for instance, an OP member gets an OP rate at the golf course is still basically to be determined at the golf shop as opposed to a universal system. Is that correct?
Currently, yes.
Is that going to change?
We have looked to see if North Star, our new golf director, is working to look to see if North Star would be an improvement on the operations they have now. We have not made a determination yet if that would improve it.
Right, so if I could just jump on this, because it goes before Keith. So when we put in North Star, that decision was made. The decision was made by everybody that we would continue with Easy Links, recommendations we received, and even with with Bob is that's the system that everybody down here is accustomed to and they all utilize. So it's more efficient in that way. I would prefer one system. So I have asked Bob and Keith to look at it if we did go to North Star, because they do have a decent system. If we can put it in, we'll do it, but it depends on the interaction with all the packages and everything else here.
Well, I'm also aware that there's at least some issue where at times residents of Ocean Pines are either required to provide their ID or sometimes they're not required to provide their ID. And that's created at least some friction in terms of, when you check in, getting your stuff on the cart and going to the first tee. So if we're improving the system, I'm wondering if it's in the works. I just raise it as an issue.
I understand your point.
Yeah.
So, and it's an excellent question. It's something I have to look at. So we're talking two different things here. We're talking structure.
Yeah.
We're talking execution.
Right.
What you're telling me, and you're correct, and we are addressing, you're talking about execution. And I have to fix that.
Okay. So,
If I had one system, yes, but I should be able to take care of that execution.
can I ask a second question if I may?
Sure.
This system, does this have any effect as to quantity and cost for record retention?
It'll greatly help us with record retention. That's why we're trying to move this forward with a document management system. It'll allow us to shred and remove all documents that we're not required to keep physical copies of. And it'll free up a lot of space, both for cabinets in the admin building, and like I said, man hours to find those documents.
And what about video record retention?
Video record retention will be improved by this as well, because it'll all be in the cloud, easier to access, and it will not be stored on local hard drives. And they're giving us a very good price on storage, which is one of the reasons we selected this vendor.
Thank you.
I've got one question. With this system, I know we have a lot of paper material right now. Is there going to be a scanning piece to what we have now that's going to be pushed and uploaded? And then with that piece, for a record retention of those paper that will be uploaded to the cloud? What are we going to do with it as far as retaining paper?
This system allows us to set up record retention based on the type of document it is.
Okay.
So after whatever's required for that type of document, whether it's 1 year, 3 years, 7 years, 30 years, it'll automatically permanently delete the documentation. And for physical records that we have to keep, we will keep.
Sure.
Need to mainly at Public Works.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Good job. Thank you, Keith.
Thanks.
Okay. Next slide.
I'll do it.
Go ahead, Linda.
Okay. DMA reserves, as stated earlier, we met with the department heads to review the next 5 years general replacement reserves. We're going to present it to the budget and finance. Evaluated the proposed budget as well as for subsequent years. There were some reclasses put in, and we will work with finance in the 5-year budget and finance recommended and board approved percentages of replacements. The highlights of the adjustments: Gulf irrigation replacement that's scheduled to begin last year is now being pushed to 2023, 2024. Golf carts were originally due to replace or purchase in 2022. Admin renovations that were originally scheduled for 2025 are currently happening now. And the marina dock and gas lines are occurring now as well.
Just jump in. Just let me add one piece because it's a big number. The Gulf irrigation, I've had several meetings with Justin. This is what he believes to do right now. As far as timing, as far as if we get approval to do it, as far as locking in a vendor or a contractor, they're all booked right now. We can look at in the beginning, but we're hoping to do it the next year. But this will definitely be a discussion point and a complete review with budget and finance to get everybody's feedback on it. That is a big number. It is spread out over 5 years.
Moving on, mailboxes. The mailbox project is currently somewhat on hold right now. Maintenance crew renovating the administration building, but the ones highlighted in yellow there have been replaced from the original order that we placed. We ordered 92 pedestals and 17 mailboxes, and we currently have 56 remaining pedestals to be replaced and 12 mailboxes. Hopefully at the beginning of the year, we'll get back on that. But the cleaning of the mailboxes is continuing, and we did the 12 additional locations in the last month.
And mailboxes will be a big part of the proposed budget also, where we're increasing spend on that and maintenance led by Linda and public things. So again, roads, drainage, mailboxes, big numbers, and we continue to increase the amount of spend on that in the proposal.
Just have to say, the mailboxes that you guys clean up look excellent.
Thank you, Stu. Team effort.
Okay, CPI violation dashboard, November, we had 32 new violations, closed out 10. Legal, we were able to close out 2 in legal, so that leaves 54 in legal. Part of the 54, 105 is the 54 in legal. Work orders, 79 work orders were originally open at the end of October. We had 57 new work orders, 67 were closed out, so that leaves a total of 69 with the majority in drainage. So the drainage crew has been working and complied out a lot of them. Customer service, slowing down this time of year, but there was 81 total emails and phone calls coming through. And we did do an annual service awards yesterday at our holiday party, and a combined 150 years of service. Travis Brittingham, 5 years, Kyle Dalton, 5 years, Anthony Howard was 5 years, Clarence Brown's 5 years, Billy Tragle, 5 years, Matthew Wallace, 5 years, Josh Vickers, 10 years, Eddie Wells, 20 years, Ruth Ann Meyer, 25 years, Clint Ark, 25 years, and Lieutenant Schoaf is 40 years.
Okay, so on the financials where we normally and we will present for month and year to date, Linda's going to take you through that today.
Okay, financial change, month of November, net operating budget was 764,000, current year 650,000. Unfavorable with a favorable 14,000. Favorable, yes.
Linda said. So just a couple of questions in that 114 going back. So we continue, our revenues are better. We have had expense efficiencies, both tying in there. But in addition, in that number, there is some timing, as I mentioned, some of the maintenance I was hoping we're probably going to push off spring, but some of that will come down.
Okay, year to date, November, we are favorable 938,000. Revenues 908,000 favorable, expenses 30,000 favorable.
So again, so you can see that the bulk of the favorability is coming through on the revenues. It's been well documented throughout the year, and if not the last 2 years, organic growth, new types of revenue streams. That a good number. Thank you.
Okay, the month of November, we ended up with 114,000 favorable, 52,000 in public works, general maintenance, CPI, mostly due to road wages and benefits for maintenance. Aquatics, 22,000 favorable, wages, and utilities, yacht club, 19,000 favorable, banquet sales. Police, 17,000, that's due to grant revenue. Golf operations, 16,000 favorable, carts and green fees. Recreation parks, 10,000, that was for special events. And unfavorable in racket sports, 14,000 to the timing of the pickleball tournament. Okay, moving on to year to date number. Ended up with 938,000 favorable. And operations, 198,000 favorable. Revenues, again, greens and carts fees. Public works, general maintenance, CPI, 165,000 favorable due to wages. Aquatics, 148,000 favorable. Again, revenue, wages. Yacht club, 102,000 favorable due to revenues. Beach club, same 88,000 due to revenue. Police, 72,000 favorable due to the grant revenue. Recs and parks, 60,000 favorable due to special events. Marinas, 34,000. Fuel sales, And racket sports, 29,000 due to the pickleball and platform dues. And beach parking, 23,000 favorable due to wages and benefits.
Yeah, so I think, just I'll take you through the reserves. This kind of ties it all in. So, that's all our income monthly. And then where are we on our balance sheet? Where are we in a point in time? And how healthy are we? So here in this schedule where Steve puts together for us, and this is unaudited in our reserves. In the first line on the top, 43022, you see where we open up with the 4.8. And then all the different reserves that we have, bulkheads, roads, and now we have a drainage reserve, right, new capital, and you got the 6.1. You come down the next line, as we've talked about, that's our contributions to that beginning balance, and then obviously the transfers are the spend. Right now, the bulkheads, which is a big spend, about 1.2, that'll transpire over the next couple of months, and I'll show you that in the next slide. So the 8.6 does go down as we utilize a lot of cash over the next 4 or 5 months. But you could see, you could just get the feeling there that overall our reserves are stronger. Next page. So the reserves year-end audited, unaudited estimates. This is where I asked Steve to forecast and bring it all together so I can see where we are and make sure with the cash. So you can see Steve breaks out for us all the items that we've either already completed or we expect to complete to the end of the year. And then you come down to the bottom, total 430.23 estimate, right, forecasted. And if you go all the way to the far right corner, you got 6.7, 6.8 versus the 6.162 at the beginning. So a lot getting done. It's all up there. But also your reserves our reserves at the end of the year will be stronger. Okay.
All right, thank you, John. On the agenda is the treasurer's report. Monica?
As of November 30th, the association has approximately $16 million in cash. Cash increased 1.2 million from the same time period last year. Cash decreased from the month of October by 700,000. We have 11.1 million invested in CDs and the remaining 4.9 million insured sweep accounts, money market, and other operating accounts. With the rates continuing to increase, we expect an upward trend of interest income realized within the reserve accounts.
Thank you, Monica. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Please be reminded, if you want to make a public comment, please state your name and address. The floor is now open for public comments.
Tom Janisek, 17 Lookout Point. First question I have, and I can't address it directly, but if one of you could address John and maybe ask him, we spent a lot of money on Bainbridge Park for drainage. We had our first major water event last week. I know because under my house fully flooded. I just wanted to know how that, if Eddie or anybody went over, checked out how that drainage, I was on Beauchamp and the water was flowing huge. I just want to know if it actually satisfied some of our needs when it came to flooding in that area and people's yards and so forth, since we did spend that kind of money and that kind of time. So if you could let those people know, that'd be great. Secondly, I just want to address to the public my issue that I'm having with the board. I want to make sure they know, and I'm not going to discuss details because we're in litigation, unfortunately. I want to know the details of the reason I did what I did was because what the board did to me was wrong, period. I didn't want it to happen to anybody else. They weren't looking out for Ocean Pines, as they said. It had nothing to do with saving Ocean Pines from Big Bad Tom. It didn't. It was personal. It was personal. The judge said so. It's been proven that that's what it was. And it's happened. This is the third time. It was personal against Slobodan when he did the referendum and 800 people signed it. It was personal against Rick when he had to go after them and ended up on the board anyway. And we still chased after him against the views of our attorney. And now it's personal against me, again, against the views of our attorney. I just think that it needs to be said that I'm going to continue this because, frankly, I won my case, by the way, in case anybody wants to know, that it was bad faith on the board to do what they did to me. They had nothing in the bylaws or resolutions that said they could do so, even though a couple of them still think that they did. And it's just personal. It's not about anything that has to do with the 8,500 members of Ocean Pines, even though the 8,500 members of Ocean Pines are paying for this as we go along. And if you want to know how personal it is, during one of the meetings in the last couple of weeks, one of the board members stated, and I quote, "I want to bleed him dry." I want to bleed him dry. That was stated, it had nothing to do with, I want to spend all Ocean Pines money, but I want to bleed him dry.
No,
That's,
if you don't mind, just if we could leave details out like that, state your point.
it's in the paper. It's public. It came out in the paper. It's public knowledge. I want to make sure anybody that didn't read the paper knows exactly what this is about. So it's my public comments. It's about taking care of Ocean Pines, not taking care of me, but taking care of Ocean Pines. And that's why I did this, to make sure this doesn't happen to any other individual, because you can make up your own rules and do what you want because you don't like somebody. And that's exactly what happened. So that's all I needed to say. And if you could let everybody know about the drainage, I would appreciate it, because I spent a lot of time on that Bainbridge Pond project. And I hope it worked out really well for the people in that neighborhood. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
Other public comments?
Put that down. We'll put out something about it. Oh, boy.
Hi, my name is Laura Pangratz. I'm at 2 Harpoon Road. I am here just to say a few thank yous. I'm going to share a little personal story with you all. Many may not realize it. I am just here as a resident. About this time last year, I became a full-time Ocean Pines resident because our son, AJ, who has muscular dystrophy, was no longer able to travel as much between our 2 homes. So we picked here to stay. And he basically, he loved being here, and he was basically confined to home, to his bed for this past year. On November 2nd, for the first time in my life, I had to call 911. We managed to avoid that lovely virus for 2 years and tried to keep him healthy, but he was having trouble breathing. So I'm very grateful to our Ocean Pines fire department, and I'm very grateful that we have them here. The ambulance crews that came out to help us with him, get him to Atlantic General, were awesome. He spent 10 days in Atlantic General in the ICU because, you know, the virus, when you also have another big issue like muscular dystrophy, causes even more complications. And we were preparing to bring him home. My husband was at the house getting a delivery of a hospital bed and everything. And I had to ask him to come back to the hospital because he went into cardiac arrest. His body was just done. He was 26 years old. And so on November 11th, my son passed away. As you can see, I will have my good days and my bad days about this, and I can talk about it to some degree. But it's an emotional time. And what I want to say is I want to thank my bylaws committee members for being as understanding and gracious as they have been, because we should have had a November meeting, but it was exactly 1 week after, and there was no way I was going to be able to do that. And we didn't have any pressing matters, so we were able to skip that meeting. We had our December meeting yesterday, and they have all been very supportive. I want to thank the directors for your kindness, for your flowers. Because it's not been an easy journey. I want to thank Linda because during the whole time when my son was in the hospital, I'm trying to schedule future bylaws meeting dates, and she was graciously did the bulk of the work for me. And, you know, but this is a team effort. And what I want us to focus on is that sometimes when we're all here and we're emotional about whatever the topic is, That's not the best time to make decisions. Right? We know there's other grieving parents out there. I know there's other grieving parents out there. I know there's other topics that are unrelated to grief that cause emotions to run high. And what we have to do is take a minute, give ourselves some time to process things, and then decide the best course of action. Somebody approached me from back home that said, maybe you should start a scholarship for your son in his name at the high school he graduated from. And that's a great idea, but I'm not at a point right now where I can even think about that yet. I got to get through the holidays. Right now, I am living in survival mode in the sense that I give myself these dates. We had his service on December 3rd back home in Harford County. I had to get through that. Then we've had all the holidays in here. But when we come up here and speak, and when we behave at home or on social media and the emotions are running high, things can be said that we can't take back. Things that we say we might regret later. But my point today is just to remember to give ourselves grace. I'm trying the best I can to give myself patience and understanding. And if I get upset, it is what it is. But I wanted to thank our fire department because the muscular dystrophy our son has, he was not able to move physically. That's why he was confined to bed. And literally he couldn't move any part of his own body himself. So it was not an easy, hey, let's get you in the ambulance and go. They had to work a little bit to get him out of our house, but they did it. They did it kindly and compassionately. And because I'm sure he was scared, not being able to breathe and all that. But I want us to appreciate that we have whatever you call us, departments, whether it's police or fire or whatever, in our own communities. Because I've never had to deal with that before. Back in October, before he even got sick, I saw one of their social media posts about reminding people about knowing where your exits are, right? And I thought, you know what? We're in a different phase. We're in a different situation. He's confined to bed. If I had to call because of a fire, they need to know there's somebody who can't get out quick, right? So I talked to whoever through social media. They got my information. I told them all about AJ, that he wore a BiPAP, all that kind of stuff. I did notify them afterwards and say, thank you for your support and help. But our house is just now, my husband and I, we are still choosing to stay in Ocean Pines full time, even though we're a little bit at loss being empty nesters now. But I just felt that the emotions for the last year and in the last couple of months, in particular, dealing with grief, have been really high. And I think you should revisit some of the topics in the future when all the emotions can come back down and we can actually deal with this in a calm manner. So again, I want to thank you for your support. I want to thank you for the encouragement I've gotten. Just remember, those germs are still out there. So I want you all to have a wonderful holiday and stay healthy and just be nice. And my son lost the ability to give hugs because he couldn't lift his arms. So when you're with your family, give them a hug, okay? And when you're on the boardwalk in Ocean City and those boards that go straight, down through the middle, we call that the AJ lane. Because when you're in a wheelchair, there's a less bumpy ride, those other boards that go diagonal, they're bumpier. So, that's how I will honor his memory. So, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Public comments.
PAC 109 White Horse Drive. Transparency. The board promised transparency. Community wants transparency, and yet there seems to be a concerted effort by this board not to be transparent. There's the not secret meeting because the door was open, refusal to videotape the BNF meetings, a lack of response to owners' emails, and press eliminated from our meetings. There are policy changes that involve no open discussion, much less a vote. This latest effort to thwart transparency is the most troubling. The membership cards are old news, still troubling, but old news. The new troubling news is the refusal to allow hybrid public comments. There was not even a press release regarding this new policy change. If homeowners followed Facebook, they learned of it on 12/2 or on the Bayside Gazette article of 12/8. Otherwise, homeowners were not informed of the policy change until 5 p.m. on Wednesday. There was no board discussion, no motion, or no vote on this disturbing policy change. Resolution B02 is being ignored. Doug Parks is quoted saying, "I don't see that there's an issue at all. There's no issue to talk about. We stand by the rule that says if you want to make a public comment, you have to come to the meeting." I disagree, President Parks. There is an issue to talk about. What rule? You have unilaterally changed the rules without reason, discussion, or vote. In emails, you cannot explain why my very simple solutions to allow hybrid comments wouldn't work. Showing a card, giving the number, or pre-registration for hybrid speakers. You yourself seem confused about the policy. On Friday, 12/9, you were ready to allow public comments. Is this because we have one director who again Friday attended virtually? Let's remember all of the reasons for Saturday meetings: the part-time owners, the employed owners, the young families, and most importantly, your desire to increase participation. Are all these reasons no longer important? Now, with 2 days' notice, part-time owners are expected to make the trip across the bridge if they want to speak. How about you, Stuart? You're a part-time owner. Do you no longer care about other part-time owners having full access to the meetings? Are all directors now going to attend all meetings in person? Ocean Pines made the investment for hybrid meetings. The directors on this board, when this matter was brought up a year ago, all voted for it. Hybrid meetings worked for an entire year. They worked for the annual meeting, and they can work fine now. The board's president's actions show that this is not about safety or threats. This is about trying to control the narrative on social media, the narrative at meetings, and even the narrative in the press. Please stop this lack of access and transparency, and please do the right thing. The community is watching.
Other public comments?
Again, I'm Dave Van Gaspek, 26 Abbyshire Road, and President Ocean Pines Fire Department. I would just like to say on behalf of the fire department that I would like to thank the other members of the team for the OPVFD South Station under the excellent leadership of Ted and the excellent oversight of John. They have done an incredible job helping us get to this particular point. We could never have done it before. We just don't have the capacity. And the other thing is that by providing all the support that you all are providing, we're able to focus on the excellent emergency services that we continue to provide and will always provide, but we're also able to focus on the business side of the department, which is pretty complicated nowadays. It's not like when I joined when I was a kid. So again, I'm up here only to say thank you very much to everybody. That includes the board, and that includes Ted, John, and all the other members of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Other public comments? Seeing none, I'll close the floor for public comment. I'm going to move on to the next item of business, capital requests. First one is finance for the document management software. John?
Thank you, Doug. Okay, so the first one will be the capital request for the finance document management software system that Keith talked about. Requesting authorization to go forward with staff recommendation, $1,448.65 for the first year, $6,999 per year for the second and third year for Rubex X-File cabinet.
Entertain a motion for approval of the capital request for the document management system.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
The 65 cents is really important.
Okay.
I just want to thank Keith for his great presentation on this. It really makes it a lot easier to make the decision when you understand what you're deciding.
Other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the request for the document management software for the amount of $9,448 for the first year, $6,999 for years 2 and 3, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstentions? Please record a unanimous decision. Next item, please.
Okay. Parks 2023 bulkhead replacement, requesting authorization to go forward with staff recommendation of $977,500 for Fisher Marine for the bulkhead operation for 23-24.
I'll entertain a motion to authorize the capital request for the bulkhead replacement.
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Steve?
Briefly, John, and I have no expertise in this fellow. There has been some discussion about the height of the bulkheads as it relates to climate change and the impact it would have on ocean pines. I'm just curious as to how that entered in, if it entered into this particular proposal. Looking to raise the bulkheads, not raise the, I don't know which is best. I'm just sort of curious.
So, and I obviously I hear the questions too, and I'm reading about them and everything, and whatever happens in nature over the next 30, 40, 50 years, I can't tell, but it probably will. So to answer your question, what's going on now, we cannot build these bulkheads higher. When the water goes over them, then they would be pushed back and then it would go down and it would be behind the bulkhead. And we've had those situations where people have increased the height themselves. So water goes over it and then it can't go back out automatically. It hits that and then it goes down and all the dirt sinks behind it and we have a bigger problem. What we have done and what they have done is there is a slight increase when they put the bulkhead in, the new ones, the last several years. They have been a little higher, but.
A slight increase in the height of the bulkhead.
Pardon?
You said there's a slight increase.
It's slightly, but we can't, you can't have the bulkheads up here and your dirt down here.
But I understand the problem is drainage is what you're describing.
Right, it's
After it goes over the bulkhead.
Right, and then you got a bigger problem.
Okay, but what you're saying is there's a slight increase in the height of the bulkhead itself.
We've asked that question with them, and if you look when they're building them, there is a slight.
Okay.
But it's not, if there was just 1 foot or 2 feet in 50 years, no. I'm not prepared for that.
Okay, thank you.
Other discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of authorizing the capital request for bulkhead replacement in the amount of $977,500, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, record the vote is unanimous. That is it for capital request. Move on to the next item of business, which is CPI violations. There are none reported for this particular month's meeting. Next item is unfinished business. We have no unfinished business from our previous board meeting. Next order of business is new business. First reading of revisions to C411.
Yes, this is to bring the language. The motion is to approve revisions to resolution C4 Racket Sports Advisory Committee. And the purpose and effect is to bring the language of the resolution in line with the racket sports that are offered by the Ocean Pines Rackets. The revisions replace the term paddleball with platform tennis. I'm not a racket sports person, but I'm told by the advisory committee that the correct term for the sport is platform tennis. And so this change makes that correction to our resolution C14.
Any discussion on that? Just a reminder, per our governing documents, as we treat it as a first reading. So Stuart, please record this as a first reading and it can come up second reading and authorization at our next meeting. The other item under new business was scratched based on the amending our agenda. So the next item of business appointments. First one is Karen Baldwin, first term Environmental and Natural Assets Committee. And another one is Pam McGregor, first term Recreation and Parks Committee. I'll ask for a motion to accept both of the appointments.
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on either of these individuals? Being none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the appointments of Karen Baldwin, first term Environmental and Natural Assets Committee, and Pam McGregor, first term Recreation Parks Committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? The vote is unanimous, and I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.